Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about Psychology of Money, which is a very well researched book and a very important book according to my opinion. You must have seen a lot of videos on YouTube where people have shared their learnings and how important they feel the book is. I agree to them. I think that this book is one of the most important books of our decade, and it should be read by every investor before reading into how to make money. You should always know why you're making money. So, fundamentally, I agree with this book and its message, but there are still a lot of learnings that I think the book missed, and I'll take a shot at explaining them to you about things I did not like about the book. So, here, let's go jump in. Okay, let's begin. Psychology of Money, if you've tried to search on YouTube, you'll find that it is a very easily available book. There are a lot of people who have shared a lot of their learnings for Psychology of Money, and I agree with all of them. This is a really good book, and it should be a standard read for everybody. So, no doubts about what are the major learnings of the book. But I still have some problem with the book. I think a lot of people have taken the learnings at their face value, and there is a lot of context missing for which we should be very aware. And I'll try to share this my problems with the book, and let me know in the comments if you guys also see that some of my points make sense for you, and if you would want me to point out more mistakes. So I'll just start with a couple of mistakes or a couple of learnings that I did not necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily disagree also, but I think there is a lot of scope of improvement for Psychology of Money in the way it puts things. So what are my problems? My major problem is with American influence, and the moment I see the American influence, I can see that people are saying that I am a nationalistic or I have some agenda against American or Western culture. It's nothing like that. I see a lot of these kind of books are written for the American audience, and that is why the underlying currents or the underlying ideologies of these books are always targeted to American people. There is nothing wrong about it, but when people from an Indian context read such books, they should always read it with a pinch of salt, or these results might not emulate our market, they might not be related to our market, and that it should be read in that way. So, what are the American influence things that I do not like or which I do not agree with? There is an undertone in the book which says that there are poor saving habits, and I don't agree with this necessarily. I think US saving habits are poor as compared to Indian saving habits, and for the same set of people. By that I mean people who are salaried and people who work in jobs. Indian mindset is much more stricter to savings and much more mechanical, much ruthless. We do save a lot of money and we do it more religiously than what Americans do. And based on data, and this is not just some subjective thing that I'm saying. There is a lot of research done as to 50% of US households would not have enough savings to last for a month till their next paycheck. And I don't think that that is the same case for Indian job households. So I understand that India is a very poor country, and a lot of our people are below poverty line, so that it cannot be an apples to apples comparison. But people who are earning money in India don't have poor saving habits. They don't go out and spend everything. We are naturally inclined to save a lot more than what Americans are, and that undertone of um a poor saving habit or why people save less and stuff like that in the psychology discussion did not agree with me. I come from a background where people save a lot more. So that is my first disagreement. My second disagreement is there is a underlying current to invest passively, and by passively I mean by using passive instruments, and that again is a US equity market thing. US equity markets are really hard to beat because the US market is a very developed market, right? There are a lot many companies. The underlying indexes they track are really tracking the best companies out there, right? And that does not resonate with the Indian market. And when we talk about Indian market, we talk about gauging it through Sensex and Nifty, which are 30 and 50 stocks. I don't think that 30 and 50 stocks are a good measure for India's entire growth story, right? Or India as a whole. We do have broader indexes, but we do have broader indices, but that does not mean that those indices track our growth or our growth story better than the 30 and 50 stock indices that I mentioned earlier. So this bend there is this bend to invest passively in the US and in the Western culture, and that is justified for their culture. I don't think that is necessarily justified for the Indian context. In Indian context, actively managed mutual funds have been able to give substantially more returns to its customers for the past 10-20 years. There is no reason to passively invest in the Indian context unless you want to be extra conservative. That is the only reason, right? And then there is this famous line for all passive investors out there, right? They say that 85% of actively managed mutual funds in US have underperformed the market for the past 10 to 20 years, which is an established fact, no doubt. But nobody tells you that the the US market for equities is penetrated to 50 to 60% of their population. So 60% of US population is exposed to US equity market. That exposure in India is around 2%. So if 2% of people are consuming products uh, which which are very less in number, right? And if that number were to increase, the number of consumer was to increase from 2% to 50 to 60% of our population, which would mean hundreds of crores of people would start investing in the equity market. The number of companies which would create these products would also be equally huge. And if there are so many companies which create these many products, most of these products are going to be bad. You can take this example for anything, right? If tomorrow there is a need to consume, instead of 1 liter of water, you need to consume 50 liter of water. There will be a lot of people who will sell water. The water quality will drop and everything will go haywire, right? If humans needed to consume 50 liters of water to survive a day. So because there was so much demand, there was so much supply, and that supply was always going to be shabby. And that is why I think that 85% of actively managed funds were poor in US, but there were consistently well managed funds in the top 15% bracket, right? Why didn't people try to identify those funds? And people did identify, and people have gained alpha in the US equity market as well. But I think this is just a mental thing as to go and invest passively. So I don't understand this hell-bent nature of passive investing for Indian equity markets as well. So those are the two things necessarily that I want you to think about, and I find are the major drawbacks for this book. Okay. So let me tell you about this 85%. So how do you know if you are going to be swindled into a product which is poor, right? So that I am going to take a proxy for it and tell you that if you are in the top 15% earners in India, then you're already doing something good, right? You already have a brain on your shoulder, and you are already thinking correctly in some way, right? That is why people are paying you so much top dollar to be in the top 15% or top 10% in India. So what would that be? So this is a 2010 analysis by NCAER, and you can see that anything above 17 lakh in 2010 was considered top 3%, and let's say roughly above 10-12 lakhs in 2010 was considered above 10%, right? If you just double those numbers for 10 years of growth, then you can see that anything about 20 lakhs would today be considered top 10%, or 20 to 25 lakhs. If you're earning annually, then you're earning in the top 10% in India. So if you are earning in top 10% in Indian context, that means that you have a brain on your head. You will be able to make sound decisions based on the products that you will select. And this is not a guaranteed. 10% of you might still fall into groups which will make poor investment decisions and still suffer, and then come back and tell me that we should have invested passively. Fair enough. But most of you are talented people who are in the top 10% bracket, and there is enough talent to go and invest in your future in products that you understand. There is enough incentive for you to go and investigate things on your own, and I think you should go, because I have done the same thing and I've got better results than just passively managed indexes across the globe. I don't mean passively managed Nifty Sensex, even passively managed Nasdaq we could beat easily through actively managed Indian mutual funds. And this is the standard SIP mechanism that anybody who is in the Indian middle class will follow. And there is a lot of goodness that comes out of SIP investment, which is necessary for the Indian investors to follow, right? So if you were just in the Indian middle class, your household earning is 6 lakhs, and you need everything for your survival, but you still have that strong saving mindset, right? You still put down that 1000 rupees diligently for that SIP amount, and you do that for 10 years for your child's education or your child's marriage, or some big events for your child, right? Some goal that you think is definitely going to need money 10 years down the line. And if you were to invest in an index, either here or S&P 500 or Nasdaq or anywhere, the average expected return, I would tell you, would be 13%. And in 10 years, your 1000 rupee SIP would become 2.44 lakhs. You would have invested 1.2 lakhs, and the 1.2 lakhs on top of it you would have got. But if you were to invest in yourself, and if you were to investigate the products, investigate the mutual funds, do active stock picking, then that simple SIP of 1000 rupees would become 3.76 lakhs is what I would think. And this 20% expected rate of return is not out of line for Indian mutual fund industry. You might ask, how will I know which mutual funds are going to return 20%? Anything that, I mean, the simplest things that you can do is figure out what they're invested in. Any mutual fund is invested in, their track record, and do you think that whatever they are invested in will continue to grow at this rate of return for the next 10 years? And at that point it is just a good diversification game that you should play. But 20% is definitely possible. It has happened with my minimalistic research. I have a day job, and I think anybody who wants to investigate and learn it the hard way can definitely get 20% returns in the Indian stock market. You have to be diligent, you don't have to be emotional, and all the goodness that is mentioned in Psychology of Money you have to follow. But the only thing that you do not have to follow is investing passively. Don't take your hands so much off the wheel that you tend to lose your money. And why am I saying that Indian investors should be more aggressive in their investment is because we are not that emotionally swindled into money making things, right? So by that I mean we don't emotionally withdraw money when we see losses. We understand that we have made a saving, and that savings need to be made for our child's future or for some major goal, and we should, if we are determined that we will never remove that money, I think Indians will do a much better job than what US does, or US people will do. And that is why you will see that in through 20% returns you will get 3.76 lakhs, which is 1.2 lakh more or 1.3 lakhs more than what you would get through a passively managed thing. And that 1.2 lakhs can be really helpful for you in your child's education or child marriage or anything like that, right? So then the money we are talking about saving here is huge. For a middle class family, 1.23 and 1.3 lakh rupees is extremely huge and can be extremely supportive. So yeah, my final conclusion would be take Psychology of Money with my observation, if you will, and take it in an Indian influence. We are good at savings. Be ruthless, be rational, don't go give into emotions, never sell till your goal is achieved. And these things are very easy for Indian investors to do. We do this with land, we do this with property. I don't ever see Indian people selling out their property because they had an emotional breakdown or somebody tried to swindle them into a new type of investment. Never. Indian property never moves, Indian gold never moves, and I would like that Indian equity never move as well. So if you are invested in equity, think that you've brought a piece of land, and that piece of land will give you the returns for your child's future, whatever other goal that you have. So take psychology of money, but remove the underlying tones of savings, remove the underlying tone of passively managed things. Be influenced if you are in the top 10% of, and even if you're not in the top 10%, be influenced to change your own life. People are investing in crypto. Indian middle class is investing in crypto, which is such a risky investment. If you can justify your investment in crypto, you can definitely justify putting down the time and making a 10% investment, and making a 10% share of your entire portfolio into actively managed funds, at least, right? So uh, that is my overall problem with the psychology of money. And apart from that, I think this is the new de facto, and I think everybody should definitely read it. Take away its learnings, but take these two caveats with a pinch of salt as well. So let me know if you guys like my comments. I can go much more into details, but this is a contrarian view, and I would just like to stop here. Thank you.